Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl, Gray Story, and I am back with a whole new podcast episode. Today we are going to be talking about awkward first date stories, and I'm really excited about it. I think I found some really good ones. I did some research, and yeah, it's gonna be a really good time. But before I jump in, we need to have a chat. Yeah, we do. So on my last podcast episode, I opened it up by telling you guys that I've been gone for like 2 weeks. I barely made it back, and I was basically dead. Like, it took everything I had to be there. I had to end the episode early because I lost my voice. Like, I was struggling. So tell me why. Tell me why. People were commenting about how I need to change my smoke alarm. Bestie, how the frick am I gonna do that? How am I gonna climb up on a ladder? I'm literally dying. Like, let's use our noggins. Let's use our context clues. Okay? Also, I get it. I get it's annoying. I fixed it now that I'm alive. Thanks for asking. I fixed it, but why do multiple people need to comment those kinds of things? Just in general, guys. I thought I raised you better. If one person comments something like that, like just like a, hey, smoke alarms are annoying. Cool, not a big deal, get it. Why do 15 other people also need to comment it? Not that 15 of you commented, but I'm just saying, like, if one person does it, it's fine to like it and be like, yeah, I agree with you, like, whatever. But why does everybody else also need to comment it? Guys, I was literally basically dying. That is all. That's really all I'm going to say. I'm just like, y'all, what are we doing out here in these streets? We use our noggins out here. We use context clues, and we don't comment things that are already commented because it drives me a little bit crazy. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to comment and what not to comment. I won't go that far. I'm just saying I think it's stupid. But anyway, yeah, so I fixed it. You're welcome for everyone who is so concerned. I'm fine too, by the way. Thanks for asking. But that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and get on into these. I am so excited. I got a drink. I got a cozy little blanket, and I'm down to clown. Like, I'm super excited about this. So, let me pull up where it's on. I went on Reddit, of course. Also, I have a couple breaks off of work, like a week and a half, I think, off of work now, before I have to go work again, so I have a little bit of time. So, things may get better, may get worse, may post more, I don't know. Just saying. Anyway, I went on Dating Over 30, surprisingly, like the r/dating over 30, and I found a thread that says funniest / most awkward first date stories, and that's what we're going to be taking from. So thank you for that Reddit thread. Let's start with the first one. I'm Grace Story, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. I met some guy on Reddit. This story almost makes me yearn for the days my boundaries were non-existent because it means I got into some crazy shit. He seemed a tad quirky. He didn't own a cell phone, for instance. I asked him to meet me at one of my favorite coffee shops. I find him there. He has a laptop, but it's like 20 years old. I'm shocked it connects to Wi-Fi. He doesn't drink coffee. He's just sitting there drinking milk from a plastic cup. I ask him to go outside. I can tell he's not showered. I'm sitting downwind. It's not great. And this is where 30-year-old me leaves, but 26-year-old me stays. I tried to go, but we ended up walking past his truck, and he pulls out some flowers for me. But not ones he bought, ones he picked from the side of the street, like a 5-year-old. He wants to hang out longer, so he pulls out this telescope, and we go for a little walk. He has pockets full of Starburst candy, and keeps offering them to me. It's too cloudy to use the telescope, and also, still daytime. I'm trying to hurry the walk up at this point. I found it odd that despite him not owning a cell phone, he had pretty much every possible electronic known to man in his backpack. Tablet, laptop, Kindle, gaming system, everything. So strange. We circle back to the truck, I try to say goodbye, but he really wants to hang out longer, and his face is super sad. So I say, I need a ride to the pet fish store. Because I did. It was my errand for the afternoon. Oh no. This is not. No, bestie, no. So I get into his truck, ankle deep in empty 5-hour energy shots. He drives me 15 minutes to the local fish store, where we look at fish, and I purchase driftwood. I guess I'm somewhat hopeful, maybe I can convince myself this wasn't a terrible waste of time. At this point it's dark, and he keeps trying to touch me, but also recall he was unshowered, and it was gross. He thought I was an amazing catch because I play Bioshock. Also, we get hungry, so I recommend we eat somewhere quick because I want to get out ASAP, but still don't know how to pull this parachute. We stood at a by-the-slice kind of place. He makes me pay for my own $2 slice of pizza after ordering his own, which was a little awkward. He asks me if I think they have milk. I say no. He asks them if they have milk. They don't. He pulls out his cargo pants and an enormous container of garlic salt and asks me if I want any. He offers to give me a ride home, but I lie and say I'm close and walk home 2 miles in the dark by myself to try and decompress because, holy hell, I should have left 4 hours ago. He leaves me a voicemail from his parents' landline saying he had a great time. I message him on Reddit and say we won't be hanging out again. That is insane. I'm going to tell you this right now, no matter how old you are or what's going on, you can leave a date at any time. If you don't like someone, you can leave the date. Like, you don't feel compelled to stay. You don't owe them anything. This is literally, especially like a first date, you can leave. And you honestly should. Like, he didn't do anything criminal. Maybe offering you Starburst is a little weird, but not like out of the ordinary for a first date. I guess, but yeah, you can leave at any time. You don't have to stick around just to be nice, guys. We're not doing that. Not in this day and age. So that's weird. That's a crazy one to top it off with. And I'm a little concerned in like a weird way. You know, to each their own, but that's kind of a little weird. This one says it's a cute one. First and only date with a guy. We were in a park after a light meal, sitting on the grass and chatting. I feel something poke my butt. I look around, expecting a dog. It felt like a nose. Saw nothing and went back to talking. Poked again, looked around. Nothing. Poked again as I'm looking and seeing nothing. Now I'm freaking out. I stand up, and beneath where I was sitting, a tiny little mole pops his nose out of the ground and goes on exploring in the grass. We had a good laugh and watched him wander, dig, and such. The mole occupied us for at least 30 minutes before he burrowed under again for good. That's really sweet. So I grew up on a farm, and I think moles are the funniest little things ever because, like, we had a bunch of them. And that's really cute. They are a little scary looking. Their little hands freak me out. But they are kind of cool little dudes who just, like, live underground, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, that's a cute one. Made it clear neither of us are religious over a week of texting before meeting. He showed up to meet me in his Sunday best after church, holding a Bible, and prayed for us. Wasn't a joke. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me as someone from the Bible Belt who grew up, like, religious. People just, like, are convinced, like, well, if they only had me, I can convert them. And then they end up, like, lying and doing kind of sus things to get you in a position where they can try and convert you. And then they, like, try and say that it's fine because, like, they're trying to convert you. So they had I don't know. I get it. A little sus, but I get it. Nice enough follow if a bit awkward. At one point, he remarked that he had expected me to look quote-unquote classier based on my profile pics, even though this was a very casual drinks date, and he was wearing a neon orange denim jacket. Anyway, we parted ways, and when I got home, I found this really long message in my inbox. It started with the phrase, "I get the sense I can be honest with you, so in the interest of being direct, let me just say." My first thought was that he was about to tell me that he wasn't interested in pursuing things further. But no! He went on to write that I seemed pleasant enough, but he wasn't sure he found me attractive or well-suited to him. However, he explained that's pretty typical for him. It takes him a while to really get to know someone deeply before he knows if he's interested. Therefore, he was proposing that we skip dating and enter into a serious relationship where we spent several nights a week together. He felt confident that if we got right to it, we could assess if we actually liked each other in a few months. Damn, I can relate to feeling attraction as a slow burn that takes time to develop. I really can. But the idea of jumping straight into a serious relationship and spending most of our free time together in the hopes that we'd liked each other eventually felt like a whole lot of pressure. I declined, props to him for graciously accepting my answer. That's wild. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I can't say anything because when Josh and I started dating, we, like, haven't spent a night apart since. Like, we were just like, yeah, cool, this is my person. And then that was that. Like, we've been together ever since. So we didn't really have, like, a talking stage. I guess there was, like, a week where we weren't dating, that we were just friends, that we still saw each other every day. So I don't know. I'm maybe not the person that talked to about this, but, like, if you don't feel that, if you don't mutually feel that, then yeah, that's weird. Like, you have to both, like, be like, yeah, no, this is it. And if you're not, then yeah, sus. Okay, I got one for you. This guy is the son of my mom's acquaintance. The moms really wanted the children to date each other, and they kept nagging, so we said, F it, fine. He picked me up, took me to a lingerie cafe where waitresses would wear lingerie, yes, to play cards with his friends. We then went to see a movie, again, with his friends. They couldn't stop raving about what an awesome movie it was. It was Green Lantern. Good thing I didn't say anything. Obviously, no second date. So, I need to know, were there other girls here? Like, did all of the friends have girls and it was like a big group? Or was it just the friends? Um, and the whole Green Lantern thing, yeah, no, gives me the ick. Me personally gives me the ick. Maybe not somebody else, but me. A little icky. They have another comment. Oh, I've got more. Second date, but I think it counts. Guy invited me over for dinner and decided to make fried rice. I'm Asian. Hey, I appreciate the effort, you know? He used frozen chicken breast that wasn't thawed and wiped dry properly. It was so bland and chewy. The rice was so damn wet, sticky, and with undercooked grains. He added frozen spinach, which didn't help with the wetness. The only seasoning was low-sodium soy sauce. Thing is, he kept boasting about his fancy German knife, his all-clad skillet, how he's always picking up recipes as he travels. After dinner, somehow the topic switched to women's safety, and he said that he couldn't understand why other men are intimidating and assholes, like he's pretty certain women feel comfortable and relaxed around him. Joke's on him because I actually had pepper spray and a pocket knife in my jeans pocket. Oh, I didn't even talk about the lingerie cafe at the previous one. Yeah, no, I mean, I think depending on the right girl, I wouldn't like that as a first date, but I think some girls wouldn't care. But that's definitely something I feel like you would need to have a conversation about ahead of time. Like, it sounds like he actually didn't want to go on a date with you, by the way. And then with this one, he tried. He really did try. But also the comments about like, no, everyone feels comfortable around me. It's just other men. Makes me feel like he's one of those nice guys that are like, nice guys finish last, you know, whatever. So, yeah. I feel like we are just running through these, but they're not that long, so it's fine. I was very new to my current city, and I had a guy suggest we head to a cool bar. I knew a few places in that area. There's an indie rock club and hotel right near there, and I've literally never been to anything triple X rated. I've always lived where triple X stuff was somewhere seedy. So I didn't even pause when the place with blacked out windows was where he led me. Anyhow, it was a strip club. Not sure why I didn't just bail the minute we were inside, but I stuck it out. He offered to buy me a lap dance, and apparently I made an older dancer's night by selecting her. So I got my first lap dance, and I mostly asked her questions about her job. Like, it was a dance, but just chatting the way I would with a girlfriend. Then when he was going to get one, she told me to tell him to select a girl who was having a bad night. So I helped two ladies get some extra money, and well, now I've been to a strip club and live to tell the tale. I feel like it's kind of weird to take your first date to a strip club. I do know girls that, like, enjoy strip clubs and, like, they go. And, like, obviously I know guys that enjoy it and, like, couples that go and enjoy it. I've never been to one. I don't really see the interest in it. Maybe for, like, a bachelorette one day, like, I'd be down. But I've never, like, been like, yeah, I want to do that. But yeah, for a first date, a little weird. I think that him getting a lap dance for your first date is kind of weird. Like, you didn't suggest you getting one, and I feel like I would be uncomfortable. Yeah, I get that, but, like, him getting one and, like, being like, yeah, I'm gonna get one. I don't know. I felt like he wanted you to get one just so he could get one. Type beat. Kind of weird. I had just moved to a new city, and I didn't know anyone except for this one dorky dude I used to work with at a national park. He was super nerdy but sweet. There definitely wasn't any attraction from my end, but I found out later there was on his. I had literally just gotten out of a relationship about 1 week prior to moving, so it was still raw, which he knew. Anyway, he invites me over to his place for New Year's. I say yes, since I really don't have anything better to do. He tells me he's having a bunch of people over. I show up. No friends are there. It's just him and his family. I stay for a few hours. The kids kept asking, is this your girlfriend? It was awkward because I definitely didn't want him to think I was interested. I would not have came if I knew I was the only guest. Anyway, at one point during the night, he bumps into something and all these condoms fall out of his pockets. I'm thinking, are you effing serious? That's what you're hoping for tonight? Mind you, there's no history between us or flirting or anything. I thought I was meeting up with a friend. Extremely awkward moment. As I'm leaving, he tells me he likes me and blah blah blah, even though he knows that I'm like a week out of a relationship. I break it to him and never see him again. Weirdest night of my life. That is... that I'm like cringing for you. It sounds like he maybe, I love how I'm just like self-diagnosing these people and I acting like I know what's going on. It sounds like he maybe has never been in a relationship, and so, like, a girl kind of showed interest in him, and he, like, romanticized it in his head. Um, I know guys like that. I know. I was younger, like, straight out of high school, but I do know guys like that. That's so awkward. Like, you're not even, like, close friends, and you're hanging out with his family. That's gross. Not gross, but weird. Don't like it. I was young and living in a foreign country for work. I meet this guy at a bar slash restaurant on the quote unquote curfew side of where I lived. Without going into detail, if you were downtown past a certain time, you got into massive trouble. We eat, dance a little, and he says he knows of a party at one of his friends' houses not far from the restaurant. I'm young and very naive. I say okay. We're walking a while. It gets very close to curfew. He's giving me weird looks, and I'm trying not to feel awkward because I really wasn't feeling him and was actually looking forward to socializing around a bunch of other people. He kept asking me odd questions along the way about my ideal type of guy. 10 minutes from curfew, we reach a hotel. I had two options: get arrested or go into the hotel room. To note, I didn't have the type of money to rent my own room. He tells me we can just talk, and that oops, his friend's house shut down the party. The hotel was clearly pre-booked. I pretended to be okay with it, and as soon as I get inside, lock myself in the bathroom, sleep in the bathtub, and snuck out in the morning once curfew was lifted. Awkward probably doesn't cut it. This is scary. I mean, staying in the bathroom is a very smart reaction, but that's really spooky. I get being young and naive, though, like, and being like, oh, it's just a party. Like, I would just go to parties with people I'd just met back in my crazy days, so I totally get it. But yeah, I'm glad that didn't go south. I'm glad that you were able to stay safe and get out of it. And then it was like just a lesson, but that is scary. Guys, take note. We stay vigilant around here. Be safe, especially if you're in a foreign country where you have a curfew and you physically cannot leave. Also, the fact the hotel was pre-booked, that's crazy. That's a little spooky. Don't like that. But it's fine. This guy and I had been talking for a few weeks when he asked me to go secondhand store hopping. I'm in. He picks me up in the morning and his driving is scary, but shopping was fun, having similar senses of humor, so lots of laughs. Go get lunch, and other than his driving, he's a little hyper. Great conversation, he drops me off and I thank him for a good time. He drops, yeah, I shouldn't have done a very bad drug that starts with an M. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble if I say it on here. This morning, when I tease him about his driving. Never went out again. He understood why I wouldn't want to date a user. Still sends me cards and books on occasion. I should add he is a respectable white-collar guy with a good job, nice house, etc., so wasn't expecting hard drugs. Sadly, this is my second addict. The other I did for a month, an engineer, very nice place, custody of his kids, and didn't find out till during intimate time. He told me he couldn't do certain things while high. Now I want to drop UAS on people. I don't know what UAS means. Yeah, okay, that was me trying not to get in trouble for saying words I shouldn't, because, you know, it's not like I'm monetized or anything, but I don't want to get, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to get banned from any sort of platform on anything that I'm on, so, you got the gist, though. I definitely tried to stay away from anyone who's heavily using hard drugs when back in my dating days. That personally was a deal breaker for me, so, yeah. I don't know if it's funny necessarily, but my most awkward first date was years ago. I met someone old who lived on the opposite side of the city from me, but right out of a neighborhood I used to live in. So normally outside my distance, but I was kind of excited for that familiarity, and our conversation online was nice. She seemed interesting and was cute. So I figured, let's just try a date and see what happens. Anyway, I headed down by her with the excitement of trying some restaurants and stuff from my old hood. We met up for some delicious tacos and things immediately went weird. She didn't say a single thing the entire date except to answer questions I asked. We struggled through dinner. It wasn't going, quote-unquote, bad. She definitely wasn't interesting when she spoke. Cuter in person than in her photos. All good signs. But if I didn't keep forging ahead and driving the conversation, we'd be meditating. After dinner, I suggested we grab a drink at a well-known bar nearby. So we went. It was crowded, but we managed to get drinks and found a seat with a little luck. Even with working on our second drinks, she still wouldn't say a peep unprompted. Eventually, I kind of hit a wall and decided to just play chicken with it. I didn't say anything. For 5 whole minutes, I didn't say anything, and neither did she. We sat there next to each other, watching the other patrons, drinking alone, but together. Eventually, I picked things back up again. I think we stayed another hour, with me driving the discussion throughout. Then we parted ways, and I messaged her the next day about not wanting to meet up again, which she was disappointed with, but took fine. So yeah, most awkward date, not a terrible one. honestly, but so awkward. That's crazy, because, like, it sounded like to me she wasn't interested, but she was too nice to, like, leave. But then her also, like, him saying she was disappointed. Was she disappointed? Or did you perceive her as disappointed, and she actually just was too nice to leave? I don't know. Kind of crazy, but, yeah, that one was definitely awkward. On a first date, a guy started telling me the story of how his dog died and began crying in the bubble tea cafe. It was so awkward. I was late to meeting my friends after because I was about to leave when he said that, but I feel like I couldn't just get up and walk out on a crying guy. Huh. I mean, like, I'm a bit of an oversharer myself. I live to try to be mysterious, let myself down by being anything but and oversharing. So I get it, but also, if you were just about to leave, was he saying that to keep you from leaving? I don't know. That's not, yeah. Damn, maybe the dog had, like, just died and he was having, like, a rough time with it. Like, it was recent? I don't know. That one's not necessarily like a he sucks. It's like a, aw, he's going through something. I once had a guy repeatedly ask me if I wanted to come over to his apartment 2 streets away so that I wouldn't drive drunk. I had absolutely no interest in him and sensed it from the beginning, so not only was he missing the vibe, but it was a Sunday afternoon and I consumed a total of 2 fruity beers over an hour and a half. It was more of an awkward date than a terrible one, to be sure. I feel like guys think that if girls drink at all, they are, like, drunk for the rest of the day. Like, because there's been times where, like, I've had, like, maybe one little, like, 4% drink, like, in the morning, like, at an event, and then, like, the event's been, like, hours long, so, like, 6 hours later or 7 hours later, I've gone to leave, and people have been like, oh, like, a guy has been like, oh, you can't leave, like, you're drunk, and it's like, no, I'm definitely not, like, I don't feel impaired at all, like, definitely not, it was, like, 7 hours ago, like, I'm okay. And I don't know, I've noticed that, like, even if we're just, like, at someone's house or something, at, like, a house party, like, guys tend to think that girls don't have a tolerance. And we do. I actually have a higher tolerance than Josh, like, my boyfriend does. So, just saying, guys, we have, like, high, it depends on the person, but we have, like, tolerance. Not that you should drink and drive at all. That's not what I'm saying. At all. So, yeah, don't drink and drive at all. But if it's not in your system at all, and you're, like, good, you're okay. Since this girl's probably isn't on Reddit, this one is courtesy of yours truly. A few months ago, lockdown ended where I live, so eager to meet the person I've been chatting with for a while, plan a date for a Tuesday Arvo at the park. This was a public holiday, so I had already planned to go out to a bar with my mates Monday night to celebrate the newfound freedom. Long story short, drank way too much and didn't have anything to eat. The mother of all hangovers set in on Tuesday. 30 plus means recovery takes oh so much longer. I call my other mate, tell him I'm coming over with a pupper and would need to be fed and given TLC so I'd feel better before my date. Go to said date, grossly misjudging how unwell I felt. Try my hardest to not throw up. A few minutes in, convo goes well, but that's when the tummy started raising concerns about wanting to be emptied. It's a park. No toilets in sight. After looking around frantically, I notice a public toilet, maybe about half a kilometer away, with a massive queue. Say F it, excuse myself, and go unload an unholy monster out of my butt. Took like 25 minutes before I felt good enough to come back to the date. She had already contacted her mates to meet up, knowing that this date isn't going anywhere, and tells me, dude, you're fading away, go home and get some sleep. Which I gladly agreed to. I asked for a second date later that week, and she was kind enough to go with me. I jokingly asked her why she would even consider going on a second date after the dumpster fire that was the first. Her words, from our chats, I had a good feeling that you aren't some derelict dude, so gave it a second shot. Bless her soul, although it didn't go past a fourth date because she wasn't sure of what she wanted out of dating, I'm glad she gave me a second date to redeem myself. Never have I ever had a compliment with the words derelict dude in it. I'd probably remember you forever, Michelle. Good times. That's cute. Like, yeah, I feel like when you go on a date and it goes wrong, you can tell if this is like a normal thing or if this is like a one-time thing. And for him, like, even if it may not be a one-time thing, like, she could probably tell, like, oh, he's not like this all the time. Like, this isn't normal. Oh, this wasn't a date, but a friend asked me to drive a guy to his house from her house after a hangout. He refused to get out of my car, which wouldn't give me proper directions to his house. And finally, when we got there, he wouldn't get out of the car until I got out first and agreed to come in with him. I had to start walking to this door with him, then he was unlocking it. I ran. He called my friend the next day asking for my phone number because he thinks he lost his baggie of a white powder in my mom's car. I told her no way in hell she's going to give it to him. I doubt he lost said baggie. I think you know why he wanted that number. He found the flimsiest of excuses to bring up feminism. I think he really just wanted to bring up feminism. Specifically, he wanted to tell me about how women are doing feminism wrong. You see, his ex was a feminist, and one time she brought him to a feminist film festival. As a man, he felt very uncomfortable with how the male characters were portrayed as weak and inferior. Gee, I wonder how that feels. When he realized he wasn't going to talk me out of being a feminist, he decided to bring up some lighthearted news as a conversation topic. It's I may pronounce this wrong, the Jian Ghomeshi trial. I'll let the non-Canadians Google that one. Sorry if I kind of butchered that. I finished my drink, threw the cash for my 2 beers at him, and stormed out, but he stormed out at the same time. I deleted his number from my phone and went to unmatch him on Tinder, but he'd already unmatched me. I will always regret not unmatching first. Oh, and then there was a smelly pirate guy, which is a different story. And she did not share the other story. Like, he's the type of guy that is like, I'm a feminist, but I'm this kind of feminist. Or, like, he's like, nice guys always finish last. Or he's just not over his ex. All three are very possible. Had a dinner date. Guy already had dinner and awkwardly watched me eat while he drank. Our waiter brought his card back and called him the wrong name. He shoots the waiter a nasty look, then looks at me like he knows he effed up. Dude straight up gave me a fake name. Oh. I mean, I know it's common that guys put, like, the wrong name on dating apps, but usually I think it's because they're cheating or have something to hide. Like, I genuinely think that that's why, because more often than not, that's what it is. But I wonder how she met him, because she just said, like, they went on a dinner date. She didn't say, like, where they met. So, yeah. This post was made for me. I've had so many terrible dates. A good one is where the guy took me to a restaurant where he knew everyone who worked there. He suggested we sit at the bar, where he literally spent the entire date bullshitting with his friend and the bartender. Another friend of his came and sat with us for a drink. Every server there stopped to chat with him for a bit. It felt like he was trying to show off how well he knew everyone, when really it was just super awkward for me. Other notable dumpster fires. Oh wow. Number 1. The guy who just blathered about himself incessantly, and then anytime I'd managed to get a turn to speak, he'd just look around the room like he wasn't even listening. Actually stopped speaking mid-sentence twice to see if he'd notice. He barely did. Then to top it off, he tried to kiss me at the end of the date and I pulled away. He proceeded to fall on my face with his face as I bent over backwards over the hood of my car. Ugh, I'm cringing. I don't like that. Number 2. The guy who let me walk home alone in the rain. We met at a restaurant about 2 blocks from my apartment, so I walked. As we were leaving, we realized it was pouring. I was not expecting this and said as much. I would have brought an umbrella, or at the very least a coat with a hood. I was lamenting what I should do when he just said goodbye and got in his car and left. I walked home in the rain alone, and the freshly dyed blue streaks in my hair stained my clothing. That's not great either. Not a good time. Number 3. The guy who decided a first date was a good time to defend the men getting quote-unquote falsely accused in the Me Too movement and double down on it when I told him I was not the right audience. Yeah, I feel like that's the best thing that you should say to someone if you don't want to hear about it. Like, you don't want to have that conversation. Just be like, hey, I hear you, but I'm not the right audience for this. I feel like that solves a lot of issues. Number 4. This is one from my college days. I'm like maybe 21 years old and meet some dude when I'm super drunk. Apparently I gave him my number. He calls me when I'm on break at my waitressing job and asks me to hang out that night. I don't even remember what he looks like, but I don't get asked out a lot, so I'm like, whatever, I'll meet him. I tell him I'm closing, but if he wants to meet, we can grab a drink or something at like 11 p.m. He says great. He asks if I can pick him up because he doesn't have a car. I say sure. I meet him at a random parking lot where someone drops him off. Great start. Then he says he's hungry, but since it's like 11 p.m., nothing is open. We go to Taco Bell, then he asks if we can make a quick stop. He spends like 20 minutes banging on this door and screaming until some dude opens up and lets us in. They proceed to get high together while I stand there awkwardly. They offered me some, but I'm not about to get high with 2 strange men. Then he asks if I want to go to a bar with them. Ended up dropping them off at a bar and leaving. Basically, I was this guy's chauffeur for the night so he could get high with his friend. That's the worst one. That is the worst one. And I know some guys who would have done this to girls. Not me. They knew better. But they definitely would have done this to, like, girls. I don't like that. Y'all, I get that she was, like, drunk, and if some guy called me and I gave his number, like, gave him my number when I was drunk, I probably would have gone on a date with him, too, when I was, like, 21. So, yeah, no harm, no foul, but that's rough. That's tough, actually. Pre-COVID, a funny one about a guy who I'm still friends with. We met online but had a lot of mutual friends, so when he offered me a ride home after, turns out we lived in neighboring buildings, I was happy to take it. When we got there, he invited me in for a drink, and I accepted. He told me he had to warn me about something before I went in, so I was expecting the worst. What he actually says is, just so you know, I have a small but tasteful taxidermy collection in here. I understand that can be off-putting for some people. Turns out he was right. It was small and tasteful. A couple of animal skulls, one butterfly collection, a stuffed turtle, and I think one other thing. All stuff he found at thrift stores. But I referred to them as a tasteful taxidermy for a solid year after that. That's not terrible. I mean, I am not a taxidermy gal, but not terrible. The one thing I would say is don't ever go into someone's, like, house that you don't know or you are on a first date with, you just met. Always meet in public, guys. It's 2024, so we gotta stay vigilant. Oh god, so many awkward dates. The worst I can recall was awkward for reasons not suitable for polite company. But another pretty funny one is a guy I matched with on OkCupid, I think. We met at a coffee shop near where I worked at the time. He had a mostly normal first date. He was a bit awkward, and we just weren't clicking, so I was thinking I'd most likely pass on a second date, when he abruptly, like kind of in the middle of our conversation, said he had to get going, stood up, and left. I wondered if I'd said something to offend him, but couldn't for the life of me think of anything. When I looked at the time, I noticed that it was almost exactly 1 hour from when we arrived. It made me wonder if he had set some kind of timer or something. When I looked back on the app, he'd sent a message saying, "Hey, thanks for the date. I think we should remain just friends or strangers." I thanked him back and said I agreed. Honestly, I think we should just be strangers is still the best, funniest rejection I've ever gotten, I think. Maybe I should use that more. Guys, we need to use that more. Maybe we should just be strangers. We met for pho, and I ordered the vegan pho because I'm vegan, but we hadn't talked about this before the date. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sorry, I'm uncultured. He looked confused as he asked me, "But what about eggs?" I said no eggs, and his whole vibe totally changed. He shut down and wouldn't engage in conversation. It was the most awkward dinner of my life. He had on his profile scrambled eggs were a skill of his. I thought he was just being funny, but eggs obviously meant a lot to him. Now I say on my profile I'm vegan to avoid disappointing egg fans. That is so funny. I'm sorry, but that's funny. That's like the way that he was just like, "No, we're done here." No, you don't like scrambled eggs? We're done here. That's a lot. That's just broke this man's heart. I met a man at a restaurant for dinner, and we were wearing completely matching outfits. I noticed it first with our winter jackets. Imagine the surprise for both of us when we were removing the jackets. I wonder if other people thought we were one of those couples who dressed alike. So awkward. That is awkward. That's, yeah. I think maybe once or twice Josh and I have, like, completely matched. Not been the same outfit, but completely matched. But, like, and it was an accident. But, yeah, that's, like, a first date. That's a little much. Met a guy on an app who was older than me, which is not my usual dating demographic. He worked at Lowe's, and because I was in the market for a lawnmower, I just asked him what department he worked in, so he could direct me to a salesman at our local store when I planned to go. He worked in the back and told me that all the guys that worked up front would be decent and wouldn't try to screw me over because I'm a female. Ooh. He wanted to take me out to a nice seafood restaurant in the town he lived in, which isn't that far. He meets me outside with a large bouquet of flowers. I don't think I've ever gotten flowers on a date before ever in my life. It was sweet. Dinner was nice. Nice enough guy. Walking me back to my car, he tells me he has something for me in his truck. It's a freaking lawnmower. Politely tell him that I cannot possibly accept such a gift, and he tells me it was a customer return that was checked over, and he also purchased at his employee discount. I tell him that I would be happy to give him my non-working lawnmower because he said he was handy and could probably fix it, so he has to drive to my house to pick it up because it doesn't fit in my car. I have never, ever brought a date home to my house. He didn't come inside, thanks goodness. Our next date consisted of him joining me on an hour-long trip up to the next major city, while I was pulling a dog from an animal shelter for a local rescue. The dude was super nice but constantly acting like my dad. If it started to sprinkle, he would text me and tell me to please be careful on my way home from work. I've driven in a blizzard before. I can handle sprinkles. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I do know guys that would buy a new lawnmower for a girl on their first date if she asked for it. But it's more of like they have a fear of getting old and not getting married and less of they actually like this girl. And that's a problem. I'm not saying that's what was happening here, but I'm saying that's what typically happened in my experience, you know? So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end it. This episode is a little bit longer. I'm kind of proud of that. We're getting longer over here. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. What is your most awkward first date story? I unfortunately don't think I have one. Crazy, I know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you guys have one that can top one of these that were in here. But let me know if I should do a part 2. There are always more where these came from. They were super interesting. And yeah, don't forget to follow on whatever platform you're currently listening on. Don't forget to leave a like, a comment, leave a rating and review. That would mean the world to me if you're able to do that on the platform you're listening on. It blows up the podcast. If you're on like YouTube, a like and a comment blows up the podcast. Whatever you're feeling, if you have a second, it's free and it means the absolute world to me. I try to do a mixture of like self-help and stories while I'm traveling. It's like the busy season for work. I'm doing more stories because it's a little bit easier, but yeah, hopefully I can get back to doing everything soon. And be proud of me for changing my smoke alarm. That was hard work, okay? I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next podcast episode. Bye!